Jason Haugen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you on. For people that don't know you, never followed you before, can you give us a 30-second thumbnail, just clip of who you are, what you do? You do incredible stuff in the RV space. We've been friends for a while, been on your show before, but give the listeners like a 30-second overview of you.
So Jason Haugen is the name of the founder, CEO of the Haugen RV Group. We got 9 locations across Missouri, Oregon, and Utah. I also am the host of the Culture Camp podcast, where we talk about culture and entrepreneurship and team building and all that good stuff. I speak, I consult, I do a lot of culture coaching. In businesses with executives and different things like that, and got a lovely wife and a little daughter, and I'm just family dude and just me.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited for this show. I got a bunch of fun stuff I want to ask you because you're very multi-dimensional. I feel like you got a bunch of cool stuff to talk about. So,
dude, I'm kind of everywhere. It's good and bad, but I love it because I feel like once I complete something, I have to just keep chasing something else.
Well, I want to ask. I think this is cool for people to listen. You have bought how many jets now?
This will be our 3rd one.
Okay, so walk us through why you're buying jets, number one, and then how you make the economics work behind buying 3 private jets.
Yeah, so a couple of them, one of them we have as a lease, so it's actually it's a super good deal because we buy a block and then we use that block whenever we want to, and then we don't. It's a super good deal.
Cool.
One of them is just a little jet that's pretty much my personal plane that we don't charter out. It just kind of chills and it just does its thing. But we're a partner in it, which totally makes 10 times more sense than ever having your own airplane. A lot of the guys that get around just want to brag and own a plane outright, and I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, there's no physical possible way that a human being, unless money is at any end, like doesn't even matter to them, and they could just like piss away about $2 million a year just because it sounds cool. To own their own airplane outright. So we actually share it with a couple other guys. We have a quarter of it, which I'm not afraid to say because that is the smartest way. You pay a quarter of the expenses and you use it I use it the exact same as I would use it if I had my own.
Because you're not flying every day and every weekend.
That'd be impossible, right? Like, and economically, sometimes it doesn't make sense, and economically, sometimes it's cheaper to fly private, and people don't really realize that. And then one of them, our big one, is a Gulfstream. That's a complete charter plane. We turn that into revenue stream, and pretty much just mitigates all the costs and make a little chunk of change. But really, there's a lot of tax advantages to airplanes. You can write off. I believe now it's 80% of a purchase price in 1 year.
Yeah, last year's 100%. This year's 80. I think next year it's going to 60%, right?
Yep. So we bought all of our planes last year, 100% write off. And yeah, I mean, and you can move it forward. So you can do like a 5-year depreciation schedule, 3-year, I believe, or take it all in 1 year. So that's
pretty cool. So that's vehicles over, any vehicle over 6,000 pounds. So that can be boats, it can be planes, it can be cars, it can be whatever. Which is, and they're trying to adjust that tax code right now. It's pretty interesting. How much? So on that Gulfstream, for example, walk me through like the economics. Like, what's the breakdown of how much it costs to run, maintain, and then how much you make from chartering? Like, let's just say in a year or a month. Just give me some examples.
Yeah, I mean, your hourly cost, like your maybe like my hourly cost is probably $4,000 an hour. That includes your maintenance, your fuel, your pilots, your air, like everything.
So $4,000 an hour.
$4,000 an hour across the board. You could charter it out for $7,000-8,000 an hour. So, and I'm sure most people that have been like, I charter a plane, you're in that $7,000-8,000 an hour like it's nothing. My little, I guess I call it a little plane. It's a little 6-seater. It's soon going to be 8 seats, or I guess 9 seats, because we're putting a couch in it and then belting the toilet, belting the lab, which no one's ever going to sit on it, right? But we just call it an extra seat. That is only about $1,800 an hour.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, for me to go to, like, I flew to Colorado one time. Me and one of my business partners flew over there, and it was like $1,600 there and back for fuel. Dude, I can't take 6 people even on a Delta flight, not first class, for $1,600. That's impossible. Now you are paying, like, on top of that, you're paying pilots. On top of that, you're paying some other things, but it's not as expensive as people think.
Interesting. So back to the Gulfstream one. How often is that rented out at $7,000 or $8,000 an hour?
So
like,
average,
what does it look like?
You're averaging around 80 hours a month.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty good revenue.
Are there a lot of fixed costs associated with the plane though? So if it's not rented out?
Yeah. I mean, just for the plane to sit there and you never touch it is about $1.5 million a year.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're paying pilot salaries for 20 or probably $30,000 a month, right?
Oh, wow.
I think we're hiring another crew, so we actually have 2 pilots right now. I think that we're hiring. I haven't talked to them in a little bit, but because they have to go through training. But yeah, we'll have 4 pilots and it will nonstop just run.
Jeez.
So we don't have a hangar because I hope it never sits in a hangar. I just want it to run.
Always cruising. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. So 80 hours a month. What's your break even point on per month? Let's just say how many hours does it need to be flying to like where we break even?
About 65 hours to break even.
Yeah.
So I mean, your net's not massive amounts of money.
Yeah.
But you're getting that that write off, and you're making a little chunk of change, and you're paying off the principal, and and our interest rate's super good because we bought it when interest rates are super low.
Yep. Cool.
So it totally made sense for us.
Very interesting. Cool. So huge tax write off. Yep. Massive number one. So if you have a lot of income coming in, passive or active income, you can write. I don't know which bucket does that go into, by the way. Is it active, passive? Does it hit across the board on depreciation?
It kind of hits across the board in depreciation, mostly on just your personal income, and you just write it off.
Yeah, cool. So you get the depreciation, and then 60 hours a week, you're about break even. Then if you hit 80, 90, if you guys are just full 24/7, I mean, you're going to probably hit a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And use a charter service to book those chartered flights out?
Yep. And like what we're trying to do right now is actually the Gulfstream we're trying to sell on a 365-day charter.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there's a company that wants that will basically charter out for 365 days, and it's guaranteed 70 hours a month, guaranteed cover, like all these things are guarantees.
Oh, cool.
They'll pay for the pilot movements. And so we're really trying to sell that because then there's really no stress. So you know exactly what you're going to get.
Like, this is it.
And quite often with airplanes, they break down. I mean, that is a reason why like celebrities, like, I don't know, like a lot of like musicians, like comedians, like Kevin Hart and all these guys, they charter 100% where they go.
Interesting.
Now, could they afford their own
why
plane?
not buy private? Just because of
they break down all the time. Dude, they are always breaking down. And so when you charter with a service, it's guaranteed, right? Like they're always going to have.
You don't have to worry about it breaking down.
You don't ever have to worry about anything. You just show up to the airport, you get on, you leave. You show up to the airport, even if you have a problem there when you get to the airport, they're going to replace the airplane guaranteed, and then you can fly somewhere. So that is a problem. Like with our Gulfstream, it's been a few maintenance issues. I got a couple buddies with other airplanes and charter fleets, and they something goes down, and especially during COVID, you couldn't get parts.
Yeah.
So if it's down for 3 or 4 weeks, then you just you lost money. Yeah. And so it is kind of this dicey game. It's
a high stakes game.
It's high stakes. And like we've had some conversations of like, man, do we want to keep playing this game? Like it's sketchy because heck, our Wi-Fi unit was $400,000.
Wow.
The couch in our little Phenom is $300,000. And so it's like,
hold on, why is a couch $300,000 for a plane?
It's a great question. It's the couch and a couple other
things. Pay me
$300,000.
I'll get you a couch from the place. And I'll just bolt it in, dog.
For some reason when you put aircraft or airworthy anything in front of it, it just boosts it by like 1,000,000%. It's crazy.
Well, let's launch a company. Aircraft, that's what I'm couches.
That's what I'm saying.
Jason and Bridger, let's do it.
Like the skids on a helicopter. There's like one company who makes those skids, and they're about $100,000 or $50,000, sometimes $75,000, and it's just pieces of metal welded together, bolted on the bottom of a helicopter.
Yeah, it's not.
Like, but there's one company that is FAA certified to be able to do it.
Gotcha.
And so it's kind of this game that is played by these manufacturers of these units. But yeah, $400,000, and like the monthly service is like $6,000 a month for Wi-Fi, and so it's just anything aviation just boosts through the roof of everything, especially if there's a name Gulfstream in front of it. So I mean, we've been like chartering out like, hey, this is awesome, but like, do we want to keep playing the risk? Do we not want to play the risk? We love the write off, but then like you're out, a bunch of cash and stuff happens. Like it's playing this game. And so
have you heard of there's apparently government will rent your plane for like 365 days.
I actually have a couple guys that I'm very close with that have rented a lot of their bigger jets. Now the government's looking for big ones. So
they want big ones.
Yeah, they're looking for big ones. And
they'll rent it out for a year and pay a premium or whatever. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Very interesting. It's a cool game. It's kind of like almost like Airbnbs or Turo, but just on steroids. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's a little it's very you got to have that that cash and that nut to crack. And
how long are you guys into? Like how long have you guys done this for?
So the charter plane is relatively new to us, but I do have some family members and some business partners and stuff that have done it for a very long time, so I'm very familiar with the model.
Yep.
But actually, my mom and dad, when I was growing up, had their own jet for 7 years or 9 years or 11 years. I can't remember what it was. It was a long time. Most of my childhood, they had their own jet, so I'm very familiar with it. And then we've had our the little Pilatus for I think almost 2.5 years, and then the Phenom has been only since September. We got that in September, but that is my favorite airplane. I mean, I love that.
The Phenom one?
Oh yeah, dude, I love that thing, and it's super fast, very comfortable, very quiet, very economical. Where I'm not just like
the hourly rate's not too bad.
I mean, I can go to Cabo and back for less than 10 grand with 6 people.
Cool.
I mean, you can't do that with first class tickets. So. I love that airplane.
What's that like flying over a border?
It's easy.
Do you do customs or something?
Yeah, I mean, it basically just come on, you good. Where's your passport? Boom, 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 and you're done.
Really?
Yeah, they give you, you know, flying to Mexico, they give you a little tequila.
They're not checking the hole for cocaine and stuff?
Not really, man. They especially places like Cabo, places like, well, in Mexico and other places, they're really just wanting the business. You know, they don't want to, you know, want you not to come there.
Yep.
Now, I've never flown to Canada, never flown to Europe.
Yep.
And my sister lives in Canada, so we've thought about it, but the airport by her house doesn't have customs, so we'd have to fly into the international airport anyway. So I'm like, is it really worth the time and the money and stuff like that?
Yep.
But so I don't know them. I've never, I mean, Canada's a little more strict in anything.
Yep.
So I've never done that, never flown to Europe. So never, I don't know, but Cabo is
interesting. Cabo's easy. Yeah. They just want you there. And 10 grand from Salt Lake City, Utah to
Cabo.
10 grand. That's for 6 people.
There and back, 6 people. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good.
And our plane can haul 6 people, all the luggage you can dream of.
Yep.
And dude, I fit a trailer. Like I have a picture on my Instagram, but I fit a little mini trailer in that plane.
What do you mean?
Back from Indiana one time. So I won a little. It looks like a little RV
wagon
trailer,
something, or
it's probably, yeah. I mean, it's maybe half the size or a little bit 3/4 of this table.
Okay.
And I fit it in the back of the plane, and I have this picture I'll have to show you. It's hilarious.
Sweet.
But yeah, I mean, it can haul the weight. But that's why I love the airplane, because airplanes are especially jets are very finicky on weight. I mean, I actually got caught one time where I had a plane breakdown, had a charter plane, and we all couldn't go on. Even there was enough seats, we all couldn't fit on the plane with our baggage, and so I actually had to have my father-in-law fly commercial home.
Oh,
I felt bad, but
you kicked him off.
Your
father-in-law, you had to pick somebody.
I tried to pick me, but I was like, dude, like, I mean, it doesn't really matter. But then I'm the one that chartered. They wanted me on the plane. It was just kind of. He's like, dude, I'll fly home. It was funny. It was a crazy story coming back from the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it was a good time.
That's awesome. So you mentioned your parents.
Yep.
We talked about something when I was on your show about second generation entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I want to walk me through what was your experience with your parents being, having money or having cool businesses, and how that affected you starting your businesses.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
tell us about your story.
You got a funny story because you didn't know that your dad had any money. We knew my mom and dad because they were motivational speakers and they had grew big businesses. And
they're on stage. They're out there.
Yeah, they were doing all kinds of stuff, and we obviously had a plane and different things.
Yeah.
We had a tour bus growing up, which is super cool. That's why I love the RV industry.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome. I learned so much from my dad and so much from my mom. Like, I owe them so much from my life personally, because they paved the way. I mean, they instilled a dream in me. They instilled vision in me. They are very highly paid. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, they were getting paid $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 an hour to speak.
Wow.
I mean, I can't imagine what that is now.
Yeah.
And I got to hang out with them at the dinner table, and it was like a seminar every dinner table.
Yeah, cool.
I've learned so much from them, and it was cool to see them chase it. But the coolest thing, honestly, was to see them chase it together. That was very interesting, because everybody's like, Randy Haugen, my dad, I'm like, no, my mom was right there with them. My mom was speaking on the stage. I mean, they're
out there together doing it. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a picture of my mom when she spoke at the Georgia Dome when they sold out. It's still to this day the largest business meeting ever held. 97,000 people sold out of the Georgia Dome.
Wow, jeez.
And my mom's speaking out there, and you see this little itty bitty person, this big massive arena speaking.
Wow.
I mean, that's amazing. And so I've always wanted to do what they did. So when I got out of high school, I joined a network marketing company because that's what they did. That's what they were in.
It was all through network marketing, right?
Yeah, all through network marketing.
Cool.
And he also owned a ton of different businesses, like helped start Costa Vida, which we all know here in Utah.
Cool. Yeah.
A bunch of a mortgage company, a real estate company, construction, home building. Actually, like 12 Johnny Carinos. I don't know if you ever heard of Johnny Carinos, like Italian restaurants.
Okay.
We own them in Atlanta. He's been obviously, with your dad back when it was the Rock Fund. Got in there early, and with you or with your dad and Paul, and just has done so many different things. I mean, he's owned probably 40 different companies.
Yeah, cool.
And so, a lot of it was network marketing. A lot of it was not network marketing.
Yeah.
And just watch them hustle.
It's cool to see you come and now be an entrepreneur as well, because oftentimes you see the kids of parents like that are on stage, that are out there, that are so whatever.
Right.
The kids almost go the opposite way.
Right.
Right. And they whether rebel or go walk me through that. Has that been with your siblings? You guys, how did your parents instill that at least into you? What was that dynamic like as a family?
They never forced us to do anything. They never forced us to do homework. They never I don't know of a single time my mom ever asked me if I ever did my homework. Ever. We self-policed ourselves. I got straight A's, 4.0 my whole entire life. Yeah. And it's just like, and maybe it's because we saw the work ethic my mom and dad, and be successful, we knew you had to work.
Yeah.
I mean, they were gone 300 days a year. I mean, they were on the road for 25 years.
Did you guys travel with them?
Sometimes, as much as we could, but we usually spend the summers on the road. So they literally pick us up from school in their tour bus. Wow. Like they park it out in the front last day of school. We'd walk out there, get on it, and they would basically drop us back the first day of school.
Jeez.
And so, you know, it was cool. And, you know, to talk about second generation entrepreneurship, we actually we're statistically like less likely to become entrepreneurs than first generation because of what, you know, and I was talking with this actually person a lady on my show, her name's Kalani Michelle, and she's like, do you know this? And I'm like, I kind of thought about it. And she's like, but I didn't know it was like an actual real statistic. And she's like, yeah, because like a lot of second generation entrepreneurs don't really know, especially if they're joining like quote unquote a family business or they're doing something like their parents did, or they don't really know what it took to get there. And so they kind of just join assuming, hey, something's gonna happen to me, and when dad dies or retires and moves on, I'm gonna get it. Yeah. And my attitude's never been like that. Like I wanted to be Jason Haugen. I didn't want to be Randy Haugen's son. No disrespect to my dad, but I wanted my own identity. Yeah. Yep. And it was a little bit different than my sister and my brothers.
Yeah, what's their dynamic? What's
you know, my brothers, my twin brother, I'm actually twin. So my twin brother is an entrepreneur. He's got a couple food trucks. I mean, he's actually works for our dealerships and is the inventory director for our dealerships. And then my older brother is our parts director for the dealerships. And then my sister's actually, she owns a grocery store up in Canada. Cool. So that's where she lives, like a little, it's called No Frills. It's like a little more of a discount shop, or like a Winco here in Utah, or more of a grocery store like that, about that size. Yep. And so we're all like have that in us. But really like me, like I just wanted to take the rank. Like I wanted to be me and like keep the legacy going, like the Haugen name going. Yeah. That meant more to me than anything, and especially with like speaking and stuff, because my dad has impacted so many people in lives. Like he's more well known for what he's done and helped people than he is for really the money he's ever made. And you will never hear that. And you never even know that he's ever made any money, because he shops at Walmart, wears goofy little t-shirts. That's awesome. Just chills and is a good dude, which is a great example. And you know, my mom have been together almost 50 years. Been married almost 50 years.
That's amazing. What a cool thing. Yeah. It's funny. I had a similar dynamic with my parents. I've always had, just growing up, the thought of, and I still have this, I'm getting $0 if they die, whatever, I'm getting zero. Right. And I got two great mentors that I can tap into. Yeah. But I'm not getting anything. And my dad, we've never partnered on business ever, never done anything together. I know he comes in, like he'll help coach and like in our group and stuff, because he does funds. Right. And been a great mentor, but no money, no partnerships, nothing. And it's been actually phenomenal for me, because it's built my own confidence. Right. I think it would be a big I don't know. So you can maybe have friends as well, but I think it'd be a big disservice to your confidence if you were given mom or dad's business and that's what made you successful. Right. And in the back of your brain, you would always think, well, I was just handed this, or I was just given this. Or people would tell you that, right? And I've seen some big names in Utah that we probably both know, where the kids of these first amazing billionaire generation, the kids inherit it. Right. And they are miserably depressed and anxious their entire lives because they show up to an event and they're supposed to be really cool. And they know deep down, like, I didn't earn this. I didn't do any of this. I just got handed this. I was just born in the lucky family. Right. And it's really interesting. I was thinking about that with my parents. My dad, I think, did me one of the greatest services of my life. I pitched him for money. I pitched my dad for money, like, wanted to invest, and still pitch him, and he says no. Right. And I think it's given me a confidence of, like, you know what, I can do my own thing. Right. I can raise my own money. I can do my own business. I can run it you know what I mean? And but I have a great mentor. He's the best coach ever. He'll answer anytime I call him on the phone. He'll be there and answer a question about an employee problem or a business thing. But he's not going to step in and do it for me. He's going to just give me a great advice, which I think is phenomenal. Yeah, no, I love that. And like a lot of people think that, like, oh, like, you know, this is the family business, the Haugen RV. Like, no, dude, it started in 2018. Like the family business would be more network marketing than it would be anything else. Yeah. And like, like my dad and my dad called me and was like, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like, no, I don't really want to do that. Like, argued back and forth. He's like, I think it would be a lot of fun. And I'm like, yeah, it would be a lot of fun, but I don't really want to do it. I was building my own like thing with my one of my best friends in construction, and we were crushing it. And I'm like, I don't really want to go do that with you. And he's like, come on, man. Like I'm, you know, my dad's a little bit older. He's almost 70. And he's like, you know, I want to mentor you in a way, you know, that I think would be, you know, amazing outside, because, you know, I was in network marketing, you know, out of high school for 7 years. And my dad's like, you know, that network marketing is one thing, but I think we could do a lot of things together with the RV dealerships, and, you know, our family, you know, our money, you know, the estate is just
kind of chilling there. Let's do something fun with it. And so I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to work with my dad. And I think now it was time that I was mature enough and I felt strong enough that I wanted to work with them. And we kind of bit that off together. And he's like, hey, like, you know, we'll invest some money. We'll do it together. You know, we'll figure this out. But like, you need to start as a salesperson. And I'm like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, that's completely downgrading like my everything, because I was making very good money. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Okay. Like, I'll start as a salesperson and learn everything. And then I started to get obsessed with the RV industry. And then about six months into it, my dad kind of left and was like, hey, like I'm out taking my money and you just do your thing. Yeah, cool. And we've been self-funded ever since. And so like a lot of people, like I needed him just kind of to learn. I was only 24. And so I needed him to learn a lot of those things. But he was very silent. I mean, he still to this day, like I talked to him about, you know, different things, and he's actually on our board. He's a very great, I mean, he, you know, when he was back in network marketing, he led millions of people. So him, like, talk about building a team, especially with no internet, no social media, no cell phones, no nothing. I mean, he did it the old fashioned way. And I feel like that's kind of been a huge disconnect with people, especially when social media and technology came out, it went extremely one way. And I think a lot of those like real raw relationships that like our parents had with other individuals is harder now. But like, you know, your event, Cars and Coin last night, like we're seeing people in face and shaking hands, right? Like that there's something to that. Like literally like psychologically, there's something to that. And so I had to learn a lot of that from him. Yeah. And it's been amazing. Like I would be an idiot for a person that's been very, very wealthy to be like, hey, I want to do this with you. And I'm like, no, because I have an ego. Like, no, I kind of kept him at an arm's distance before that. I'm like, okay, now I'm ready. And so it's just been a blast. And, you know, my brother came with me because he was a parts guy at a regional parts distribution center here. And I'm like, hey, I need you to come be my parts person.
And how much revenue you guys done since inception?
Probably 300 or 200 and close to 300 million probably.
Yeah. It's amazing. Dude.
Yeah. We do about 100 million a year now. Yeah. So we'll do.
And how many dealerships you guys got now?
So we're just opening up our 9th one right now.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're
just ripping and rolling.
Yeah, we did 100 million with 5 locations. You know, so I'm looking forward to these 4 more that we just bought. So
that's cool. Walk us through. We talked about kind of before we started, but right now we have kind of this banking crisis. Interest rates are rising a ton. What is that like for RV industry? And I'm just curious, dealerships in general. Dude, like how does this affect the industry and just prices, and just walk us through the game from your side of the table.
Interest rates are killing me. I mean, especially last year, you had interest rates rising in a massive percentage. We were paying 3%. Now we're paying 9.5%. Yeah. I mean, we're LIBOR or now we're SOFR. So we're SOFR plus 3.25%. Jeez. Which with SOFR the other day was like 5.5% plus your 3.25%. So we're almost 9%. And we're floating. It's going to keep going up. I mean, I got projections from Bank of America that we're going to go north of 10% in flooring. Jeez. And for everybody that doesn't know flooring, and I use the term flooring, is it's basically a line of credit to buy my inventory. And so I have like a $55 million line, and so I'm paying almost 10% on that. I was paying 3%. Right.
Yeah, that's huge.
So in 2022,
a $7 million difference. Yeah.
Massive, right? Yep. So in 2022, we in 21, we budget for 22 at the end of the year, right? So we're setting up our budgets. Everything's good. We know margins are going to compress a little bit, but what we did not think, I thought the interest rate would go up around 4 to 5%. That's what we budgeted for. But margins and the sales crashed. Like harder than it went up. I mean, we crashed. Margins compressed to nothing because now we're giving away the inventory because the demand's not there anymore. And interest rates shot through the roof.
Well, what's funny is you guys are buying them on credit. Yeah. But also the customer is buying them on credit as well. So the customer gets weaker. Right. As well. It's like, well, I don't want to pay that much because my monthly payment's going to be a lot higher now. And so I got to pay their lower price. So you're getting squeezed on both ends.
But and the problem is the RV industry and RVs are looked at like a want, not a need. Yeah. And so really, really good interest rates back in 2020 and 2019 and 2018 were 5% and 6%. Really good interest rates with really good credit, perfect at a national bank or a credit.
So what's someone getting today?
Oh, north of 10%.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you're 7-8. I mean, there's buy down, right? People are trying to do this buy down thing, like in the mortgage industry. And it's just kind of entertaining of what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it's crushing us, especially and now, you know, they're doing 20-year loans on RVs, and it's a tough thing to watch. And so it's like, I was reading a thing the other day that they're thinking, you know, a car industry crash.
Yeah,
because people are so over leveraged and so upside down in their cars, and now they're thinking, oh, we're going to do 10-year loans on cars, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is crazy.
A 10-year or 20-year loan on a car is just unheard of.
I was talking with a gal last night at Cars and Coin, and she was like, that's just nuts right now because like prime rates in vehicles are 6%. And I'm like, that's nuts. When they were like 1.5%, like some car manufacturers are like 0% interest, or like 0%, 1% or 2%. You know, it's kind of crazy. And so, yeah, I mean, this
feels like the housing bubble of 2005. People talked about the car bubble of 2022 or 2021. It's funny. I pulled up a chart from Fred the other day, economic data on cars, securitized car loans.
Yeah.
And it literally for 20 years is just a straight line.
Really?
Like just straight up. COVID didn't, like, it barely went like that in COVID. I mean, people want new cars and they want them higher and pricier and better and new, all while all savings rates are at all-time lows. We went from record savings rates in 2020 since World War II to now it's like 2.4% savings rates. It's the lowest. It's like one of the lowest spent in history.
Wow.
Credit card debts through the roof. So people, it's like the consumer is still spending. Consumer spending is still up.
Right.
Car loans, everything's still up, but savings are going down. It seems like there's going to be a day of reckoning very soon, and it seems like a car or a vehicle would be one of the first things you would downgrade, probably before your home.
Right.
You'd probably downgrade a vehicle first, I would assume. Right?
Yeah, and then so we're playing this like game, especially in the RV industry, is like, what's going to happen? Because are people going to leave their homes and buy RVs and go full time?
Yeah.
I mean, these like
true. That's another thing. Yeah, that's
these are. I mean, we have sold a massive amount of full timers, especially during COVID. Like COVID was great for that sense because now people are like,
sell your house and go on the road. I'm going to work remote.
Yeah.
We camp out. I'm going to get Starlink. I'm going to just be in the
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, I was talking with Dan Fleischman. He's like, dude, I'm getting Starlink in my motorhome. I'm like, oh, that's sick, dude. And like, it's just like, I'm glad. Thank you, Elon, because it's definitely it's going to help us because there are so many. You know, there's a lot of money in the real estate side in RV parks, but there's a lot of people that are floating, you know, going towards this and being on the road and being more out and about and don't want to be in the cities or whatever. And they're going, and dude, these motorhomes and these trailers are extremely nice. I mean, tile floors, dishwashers, quartz countertops. I mean, they got everything you need, you know, plus some cedar closets in some of them. It's kind of nuts.
Cool.
But so I'm interested to see what happens to that because our industry historically follows the housing market. So if you look at the housing market, we are almost right there. So
interesting. How so? Like it mirrors it, or is it 6 months behind, or what?
It pretty much mirrors it in about almost a quarter behind.
Okay.
But it pretty much will adjust always.
So housing market dips about a quarter later. You guys will dip.
Yeah, we'll dip.
Okay.
And sometimes it could be sooner. Imagine how big the dip is, obviously. So if it just crashes, we're like, hey, we're coming and we're gonna crash it, and we might be a little bit behind that because some people might not feel that. You know, the housing market, you know, crash immediately. And we're kind of, Utah's just a different ballgame, man. Utah's just crazy. I mean, we have one of the best economies in the country right now. And so Utah
is a little bit of a bubble, or not a bubble, but like an insulated.
Dude, it's
insulated
crazy.
from other things.
It's
you have
crazy.
A lot of people moving here. You have great businesses that are still hiring people. It's very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And so we're like, our Utah market is very different than our Missouri market and Oregon market. So we're always having to like, look at that, and it's hard to find like economists and people that you trust. Like, hey, what's going on in Missouri? What's going on in Oregon? Like, it's just very different. So yeah, I'm interested to see kind of what happens. This year's still gonna be rough.
Yeah.
What happened a lot in, like we were kind of talking, is a lot of people are gonna get stuck with this old age inventory, and banks, like institutions for the consumers, are gonna stop loaning, you know, maximum amounts on them, and so it's gonna start hurting a lot of these dealerships.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, I'm kind of just thinking of now on the opportunistic side of that, right? That's how I always think with funds and where you can step in. And I'm sure you guys are thinking the same thing. We've talked about this before, actually. You were like, should we start a fund, or should we, because you're like, we have all these other dealerships that are kind of, I don't know, not doing well, that we could pick up and buy for just pennies right now. And so it's an interesting play of like, yes, there's contraction, but also it opens up a lot of opportunity for expansion and to take over maybe some poorly run businesses, or businesses that just, for whatever reason, weren't managed well. And that's an interesting opportunity in the RV space, or maybe it's dealership, or maybe it's just across the board. Do you see, what's kind of the biggest opportunities you see in that space?
Oh, dealerships basically calling, screaming, just come take me over, and like for free. Because when you
really just because they have so much liability,
they just basically assume the debt and come take me over. Because if you have cash right now.
And are most owners personally guaranteeing it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So their whole life is on the line.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. When you're a smaller, like, small to mid, you personally guarantee everything. When you start to get a little bit bigger, the bank will start to personally guarantee with the business. So the assets of the business owns, your inventories, your buildings, the different things like that. So they'll look at that equation. So then it'll take the owner or the individual a little bit less out of it, which is kind of the point we're getting is like, hey, like stop trying to tie up my whole life of everything, and I don't have to get written permission to basically buy milk. Like stop, because the banks are that intrusive in your life. It's the RV industry is wild.
Interesting.
But there's going to be a lot of deals out there, and especially with our RV industry is kind of archaic and old. I'm not going to say we got a lot of dinosaurs in the industry, but we do. And so a lot of those guys don't want to deal with this down. They loved COVID. They rode it. I mean,
Well, COVID was amazing for you guys because everyone was like, I'm getting an RV, I'm getting the kids out of school, we're going to go travel, right?
Margins went up 200%.
Wow.
I mean, you're instead of making 10% or 12% on a unit, you're making 30, 40, 50. I mean, it's just crazy. And I mean, we're selling units for full MSRP, which doesn't happen in the RV industry. You usually sometimes $50,000 discounts on MSRPs.
Yeah, interesting.
And so I mean, so these guys ran it. And if you were doing okay in 18 and okay in 19 and then crushed it during COVID, you're gonna do really bad in 2022 and 2023 and 24 because of the fallout that's gonna happen. And a lot of these guys just don't want to deal with that. And I mean, they're in their 60s and 70s, just saying, "Hey, I'm done." And that's most of the dealerships we bought are from older people that just like, "I'm done. I don't want to deal with people."
Next cycle, this whole thing.
I'm done. And so a lot of that, we're already getting phone calls of people that are like, "Hey, just come take me over. Just come do this and do that." I'm like, hey, I know I wanted this much money last year. I'll take this much money now. Millions of dollars discounts.
Wow.
And so I'm glad that we kind of held. We're opening a location, brand new, Greenspanning it up in Logan, Utah right now. So that basically just doesn't cost much because it's just leasing a building and calling it good. And it's a test for us. We're testing the market out because we already have a dealership there, but we're testing another one.
Okay.
And so that is a lot cheaper than going and buying your Blue Sky and a lot of businesses and different things that they got. So I'm interested to see kind of what happens and who falls out. And I also think manufacturers are going to fall out. A lot of manufacturers are going to fall out.
They won't be able to make it either.
Dude, I will show you something off camera that will blow your mind about how much inventory is sitting on the ground in Indiana.
Really?
And that's where most of our trailers are made and RVs are made. It will blow your mind. And
their manufacturers are and dealerships aren't taking them. Is that what they're saying? They're building them and dealerships are saying, we don't want them. We don't want the liability. Oh, interesting.
Oh, dude, it's like tens of thousands of units. Tens of thousands, man. Like where in COVID, you couldn't see one trailer. In normal times, you might see a handful, like half a dozen or a dozen units in a yard. You would never see 20, 30, 40 units in a yard ever. I mean, in a manufacturer's yard. Now in a shipping yard, it's a little bit different because they're going in that bullpen and they're getting shipped out. And individual truck drivers in a pickup truck driving to all these dealerships across America. It's kind of barbaric.
Wow, interesting.
But yeah, I mean, so it's going to be
like
dicey.
Google Earth or something, or like you got some satellite that's just like getting satellite images.
I got satellite images. Yeah, I got satellite
awesome.
images of the manufacturers out there, and I cannot believe it. Like I'm like in shock.
Wow.
And a lot of these manufacturers are like calling us and saying, "Hey, we'll do 30% off. We'll do 20% off."
They got clear because they're having the same squeeze. They've paid for parts and materials. They've got to get.
And a lot of it's been on line of credit, right?
On lines of credit, and bank rates go up, and now so it's funny. People talk about interest rates. How this affects. Some people are like, "Oh, well, it just affects like buying a home," or no, it's like it affects every business because everybody uses debt in some way, shape, or form. Most companies use debt for their business,
and a lot of that has been like a lot of that inflation has been a driver for the inflation. At least in our world, I'll say a lot of our margins or the increases in prices have been increases because of increases of interest. And when you're talking about going from 3% to 9.5% in interest, I have to make up for that $7 million, millions of dollars somehow. Right. Like I got to figure it out somehow. And then you look at the manufacturer and they're doing the same thing. They got to make up for it somehow. So I'm paying more. And so then the customer's paying, like, it's a domino effect. It's going to be a little and I think we're going to feel it really, really strongly in 24, 25, and 26 because everybody bought at a super high interest rate and they're going to go to refinance and be completely upside down underwater in their unit and not really know what to do because they've paid so much in interest. Their principal is not buying down. So
very interesting.
We're looking at now. I love the industry.
Yeah.
It's historically strong. Like we haven't really had these massive bubbles. And like I said, we follow the housing market.
Yep.
I'm not saying I hope I'm not tucking anybody out of buying an RV. It's just like, on the dealership side, it's going to be a dicey situation. So like right now is the best time to buy because we're giving all our inventory away. I'm losing money on my inventory.
Yeah. You just want to, because you want to clear inventory.
Like I'm going to sell 300 units this month in March and I'm not going to make any money. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting, huh? And that's, it's funny. This is very insightful to hear about the RV industry, but also I'm thinking through now, this compounds into pretty much every industry on earth.
Right.
I mean, we talked about cars for a minute, but you talk about t-shirt companies and clothes manufacturers. Just any product that's made is probably going through this exact same situation right now, which is just so interesting. The ripple effects of raising rates at a high rate right now.
Yeah. Well, like you go buy a building right now, like, okay, I'm a t-shirt manufacturer and I'm going and buying a building, or even the building just got, now it transfers in lease rates. So the building just got bought. I'm going to go lease a new building. Well, that lease rate's super high because their payment's super high. Because there's not a lot of cash buyers out there.
They're going to reflect that. Yeah.
And so it's reflected on everything.
Yep.
Like it's just, and then the manufacturer of the t-shirts probably is on line of credit. You buying the t-shirts from the manufacturer is probably on a line of credit or some way. I mean, it's just that it's a domino effect that people just don't realize what's going on. And like I like how Dan Young puts it, of when we try to curb inflation, it's like a giant pendulum, right?
Yeah.
And it's like inflation's like almost at nothing, and then it's like we tried to curb it when we the economy, it's like they push so hard, it swings so hard back, the other way.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, we don't want that, so we're gonna come back over here. And it's like we'll see.
Pretty interesting, huh? Well, thank you for sharing. That's awesome. You switching gears, you run a podcast called Culture Camp.
Yeah.
Talking about culture and companies and culture causes. You had some incredible guests. I'm actually curious, what's a favorite guest of yours, and what was one or two things that they shared in your show?
Oh man, that's tough, man. Obviously you were great. I mean, it was
well, besides me, obviously I was the best guest of all time.
I had a great time talking with Kyle Nilsson. That dude is just an awesome guy. He's the president of sales for Aptive Environmental.
Yep.
Just an all-around great guy.
Yeah, he's awesome, dude.
He's been awesome.
He's the NBA elf guy. If you guys see this guy that dresses up as he looks like Buddy the Elf. He dresses up and he'll be front row at like the Utah Jazz games or other NBA games. It's awesome. So he's a great dude. We were with him last night. Yeah.
He was right there, and super cool car, just super nice guy.
Yep.
He's the plug for the shoe game. If you want to listen to my podcast, it's a great episode. He talks about how he got in the NBA and basically became everybody's supplier of sneakers.
Shoes, yeah.
And so, he was awesome.
Yeah, because he was showing me like every NBA player apparently goes to him for shoes. Yeah. He's like the guy that's like, I'll find you whatever unique shoe that they want. He'll get it, which is just cool.
He'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was wearing some shoes last night and I'm like, bro, I like those. He's like, I'll get them for you. I'm like, okay. And I'm a big sneakerhead too. I gotta stop. My wife made me delete the apps off my phone. But I got some friends that are helping me out a little bit. But
that's awesome.
But yeah, that was awesome. There's so many different people. The reason I love my podcast is because I can go any different way. Like I've had athletes on there. Like I had Darren Williams on there.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That was a great time because talking about team and culture in athletic teams, right? I've had coaches on there. I've had business entrepreneurs on there. I've had kind of a little bit of everybody, and it's just been cool to understand because I'm more interested in building the team. Like, and I've done a couple of podcasts with people that, are big into real estate. Like this guy the other day owns about, I think he said 1,700 or 1,700 doors or something like that, or 2,000 doors. Currently about 800 million under management.
Cool.
And they privately own it. Like it's theirs. Like it's not a big equity thing and not a big fund. Yeah, it's just theirs.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I've never been asked how I built my company through people. And I'm like, that's what my mission is to figure out that, because I know that is really what built the company.
Yep.
Everybody's like always trying to interview me about how I scaled and how I got the loans and how I got this and how I got that and like what deals and this and that. I'm like, that's interesting to me, but you got to remember, I'm not in real estate. I'm just a trailer dude.
Yeah.
So it's not a whole lot that, and I'm trying to get more into real estate and different things, but I love talking about culture and teamwork.
Well, talk us through some of the, biggest takeaways or things that you've shared in your podcast or stuff about team, about that form of leverage and people. Yeah. People is like one of the greatest things you need or can destroy your company as well. Walk us through some of the stuff that's been really impactful to you.
Huge impact to me is love your people. And it sounds kind of goofy and sounds kind of weird, but at the end of the day, like you have to, so you think about it like this. If you have ever played sports, which I know a lot of people have, a lot of people haven't, but if you ever played sports or done anything with a good coach, a really, really good coach, you will go out there and play your heart out for a great coach and a great team, because you are sold out to the cause of the team, the mission, the vision of the coach, the vision of the team, what you want to go do. Maybe that's a championship. Maybe you've never won a game before. Maybe it's the win one game, but you're sold out for the team. Now, we've always had those coaches that are horrible coaches that you could care less about what they say in the huddle, and you go out there and you just play for yourself. You don't care. And if you got traded or this or that, or you got over here, you didn't make the team, you're like, whatever, I don't really play for that coach. Happened to me in football. I didn't love my coach. I didn't ever end up playing football because me and the coach never really got along. So that wasn't really another avenue I went down. I love football. I wanted to play my whole life. But me and the coach just didn't really jive. He was just that. And so I went out there and had zero cares about anything. And that sounds bad, and I cared more about my brothers on that team than I cared about the coach and doing anything for him. So think about that as a CEO in a business or a team leader or anything. Is how, if you're telling someone something, or you don't have, we can call it respect, and you don't have that respect, and you've never gained that respect or cared about figuring out your team and who they are, then why would your team play for you? Why would they do anything for you? Most jobs out there, I would say 99% of the jobs, if it's a 40-hour 9 to 5 quote unquote job, how many times is everybody perfectly working from 9 to 5? Hardly ever. So how am I going to get those extra hours? Why are they going to work those extra hours? Why are they going to help the team out more than? And that's kind of my mission, is to figure out how to do that. And different personalities. Like I was talking with a gal last night, super awesome lady, and she was talking about her son, and he's kind of an introvert, but he's super smart. And I'm like, see, that's the psychology behind team building. What I'm trying to figure out is, because when you're building a team, it's not like the Jazz don't have 10 or 11 guys in the field or on the court, or 5 guys on the court at one time that are all point guards. Like when they won the Super Bowl with 11 different guys, 11 different positions. They have 2, even if it's a receiver and a receiver, they're used for different nickel, or you have cornerbacks, you have a nickel back, you have a dime back, you have different cornerbacks that play different play sets, right? So it's figuring out how to put the right butts in the right seats, and taking a great book called Good to Great to a whole other level of saying the psychology behind a company and how we're going to put these people in the right seats to be excited to come to work and to feel fulfilled and to go the extra mile for the team and build the team. And some people businesses just don't care about that, or don't really know, and they think we're just gonna have a mission statement and it's gonna be up there on the wall, we're gonna have some values, and we don't really manage through it. And I even talk to people that, we manage through it. I'm like, hey, tell me some ways that you manage through it. And we start talking about it. I'm like, you're not managing through it. Talking about it and having people sign a culture statement is not managing through your culture. And so so
walk us through, and I love what you're saying here, because it's so true. And sports is probably the best analogy of all time, because it's so raw, it's so just points on the scoreboard tell you exactly how you did.
Right.
And it's so true. Coaches and the organization, it's just funny. Coaches will go from team to team and keep continuing. There's a coach that's in Utah, actually. He's been on 3 different groups, and every time he goes there, in 2 or 3 years, they have a state championship team. They do it for 5 or 6 years, and then he goes to another organization across whatever, does the same thing. It's like, whoa.
Right.
This is amazing. So walk us through. I love how you describe that. What are some things that, to get on a business setting, to get people on the same team, yoked together? What's some stuff that you've done or seen that's been successful?
Care enough to know. Go talk to him. I had a guy on my podcast. He's like, what do you love? What do you hate? He asked me, what do you love? What do you hate? And it's like, I love doing this. I love selling. I hate the paperwork. It makes me not even want to sell. Wow. So how are you 70% effective or 60% effective? Because you're thinking the whole time while you're selling how much you hate the paperwork.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, let's buy your time back.
Yeah.
Let's give you an assistant or someone to help you do the paperwork, and let's get you selling 100%, because if that's your superpower and that's what you want to do, let's get you doing that 100%.
Yeah.
It's like, a center that there's some centers and some big guys in the NBA that are like, hey, I hate being down low. But there's some guys that just want to shoot threes. Some big 7-footers that just want to shoot threes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's figure out the team and make the dynamic where you just can sit out there and shoot threes and and be the sleeper. Hey, but you're gonna have to be down low sometimes. Okay. So there's a kind of a give and take a little bit. So having those conversations with your people now. I break it down with a software. I have 2 different softwares that I make people take a test where it's a 30-page report on their personality, everything about them. And everybody has 2 personalities, a favorable personality and an unfavorable personality in situations. It's almost a reactionary personality. So I figure that out. And then I actually have them take a test of their management style. How do you manage people? And how do you like to be managed? And so I know it's a playbook.
Yeah.
If I don't know my people and know my team and my family, how am I going to be able to coach them correctly with I don't even have a playbook of what they like to do?
Yeah.
And so it's knowing that, and it's sitting up there like a president or an owner of a team saying, okay, I got all these people. How can I best set them up for success? I believe my number one job as a CEO is to set everybody up for success. If I'm pigeonhole, and I will never pigeonhole somebody because everybody can surprise you and different styles can change and people can learn and shift. But why would if you hate selling, why would I force you to sell? If you don't like making phone calls and don't like, why would I have you in a forward phase? So let's figure out, if you're not succeeding, let's figure out what makes sense. And if not, then hey, I'm very well connected in the state of Utah. I'll make some phone calls because I think you're really good and figure out there's we can redeploy you out in the workforce and figure something else out. Yep. But you have to look at it like that of how can I best affect, the overall team and put the right people and set them up for success to be 100% effective.
Yep.
Like I use this example a lot.
Awesome.
Is a lot of people hate their job. Like a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I was reading this book, a great book called Conquering Unfavorable Leadership. And it talks about how, was it like 77% of employees dislike their CEO.
Interesting, huh?
Dislike their CEO. But I bet you they don't know that because they don't care to know, right? They just want to go and they want to operate.
Yep.
Like I give feedback surveys. I want to know exactly how I'm doing, how the team's doing, what we can do, how we can serve you better. But like you have to care. And so I usually use this example. How do I get you? It's 6 a.m. on a Saturday. Everybody wants to sleep in, right? How do I get you so excited at 6 a.m. on a Saturday? What do you like to do as a hobby that you get excited to 6 a.m. on a Saturday where your alarm goes off, your feet hit the ground by 6:01, and you're out the door by 6:30 because you're so excited? How can I create that environment in my company? Now I'm not talking about everybody gets a trophy and we're gonna put a monster fridge and we're gonna give free monsters and we're gonna give this, like that's a cool vibe, but there's a lot more to culture and psychology behind that. Of how can I make you that excited to come to work, love your job, love your team, and excel at 100% than you to come and hate your job and be there at 50%. I mean, I've actually had conversations with employees of like, look, I think you're miserable. And I don't think this is a good fit for you because you're miserable.
Yeah, you're
why do you owe it to your family and yourself to be healthy mentally and to be healthy financially? Maybe go do something else. Like I said, I'm well connected. I can help you out and do different things. So I care that much about my team and creating this, and like with my software, I can plot map your team. So how your reactionary personality is and how your favorable personality is. So if a problem comes up, how you're going to react to it, or your team's going to react to it. So you say, hey, I know this customer left us a bad review. Our reaction is going to be, we want to kill the customer. It's probably not a good idea. So how are we going to get through this and serve the customer? At the end goal, our mission is what? That's our mission. Does fighting the customer get us towards our mission? No. How can we get towards our mission? And so
that's cool.
It's managing through it.
I got to ask you on the surveys. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this is just personally, I have taken a number of personality surveys and I take them and I feel like they're way off.
Really?
Or I take them and I'm like, well, who should I take this as? This is my best version or my work version. Right. Yeah, this is kind of how I am at work. Or like who I am at home or who I am at like with my friends is a different kind of personality a little bit. And so I take these tests and I'm like, I don't know. I've taken like 5 tests and they always come out different from each other. And I'm like, I feel like it's so across the board. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So my test actually asks you.
I wish they would work.
My test actually asks you to ask you a bunch of questions how you are at home. Ask you a bunch of questions how you are at work.
Cool.
And it will
combine
it together.
Yeah.
It puts you in different situations. And like I said, you always have, and I actually, most personalities don't tell you 2 different personalities. Most tests don't have 2 different personalities, right? Yeah. Like, cause it's like, oh, well, yeah. Like if I'm going and hang out with my friends, I'm a partier. I like to hang out.
Yeah.
Like I like it when things are good. And I like thinking about like, oh yeah, like I got a putting green out in the front. I like to have a cool vibe at work. But then when a problem arises, how do you react to the problem? Is it you're a taskmaster getting through it?
Yeah.
And so it's like
way different.
Than a reactionary personality, and it's putting those data points up. Like I put them up on a screen of myself to like general managers of the dealerships and said, this is how I generally react to things. And here's why. My natural born heart is a protector. So when I'm trying to protect you, I'm trying to protect the company, I'm trying to protect everybody, because there's 180 of you guys that I'm probably, someone did the math and it's like 5,000 meals a week or 7,500 meals a week that our company provides, right? Like you can kind of put it like that. I'm worried about that. So when something arises, know where my heart's at, know where my intention is, because perception and intention are two different things. Whether I don't care what your intention is, it's the perception that was taken. That's kind of how people feel, right? And I'm always like, hey, I can never discount people's feelings. It's my job to make sure the intention is clear. And so I put that up on screen and say, this is why. And I'm a natural adventurer. So I'm going to do some crazy things because I'm a natural adventurer. I like to be on an adventure. I like to take risks. I like to have a good time. And so when I'm going and buying 5 locations in a year, sometimes some people have to check me and say, Jason, you're being too much of an adventurer. Like, quit. I'm okay. So we call each other out, and it's putting, like when you talk about teams, they're all keeping the same score on the same scoreboard. And sometimes in our businesses, we don't keep the same score on the same scoreboard. We're kind of keeping different scores for everything, and we don't really know, and it's not really laid out in how we're keeping the score. And so with all these tests and when we're managing style and all the leadership meetings we have, and I have book clubs and I have a whole management training program that you got to do, like we keep the same score with everybody, and they know how to keep the score with their teams. So we dive into it because I fully believe you build a better person, you build a better company. But I have taken a lot of the time to get certified in all this stuff. I mean, it's been 5 years that I've been taking classes to get certified in all this stuff.
It's amazing.
I've thought about going and getting a I don't know if like a PhD or something, but like a psychology degree, because I dive down deep into psychology of why people do what they do, because I always felt like I was a broken kid. I mean, I was told of, like, have you ever felt that? I'm sure, and I'm rambling.
I love it. Keep going.
But have you ever felt as a kid of like you did something and maybe you fought, or like you did something, or like you screamed, did whatever, and you're like, and someone's screaming at you and mad at you for doing it, and like you're like, wait, but I was just trying to help him, or I was just trying to have every good intention. And so I always had that of like, why did I always get overprotective of things, and why did I always want to fight, or why did I always want to like be, like outland, like just kind of just crazy sometimes, and just care. But it's like I care so much about people. I protect people. Like I don't like I used to fight all the time in school, other people that were fighting. And I'm like, hey, stop picking on this kid. Boom. But then all of a sudden, like, why insecurities and different things. And so I always wanted to figure out why I did what I did. And so I really made it a point in high school to start reading psychology books.
Interesting. And you came out that, you're protected. You mentioned that multiple times. That's what a lot of your psychology is about, protecting. Interesting.
Yeah. And it's like, and why? Like, you can dive down and this kind of getting a little bit personal. My mom and dad were gone a lot. So it's like almost I felt abandoned. And so I had to be the protector at home because I felt abandoned. And so like there's different, and like diving down deep into things like that, a lot of business owners don't really care to know, especially about their team. Now, I'm not going to get in their business or try to not get in their like trauma in their business. Now, I do believe mental health is a real thing, and it's really good to go talk to people. It's really good to dive in and figure out why you do what you do. But oftentimes, why we do what we do is just a few things that we can play to those strengths, and it's like in calling each other out. Because I know if I know your heart and your intention, if you're overreacting to something, I can just say, hey, like you're being this person, you're dominant. You call it a D personality. I use DISC. So you're dominating director is what it's called. Like you're dominating director, your D's coming out. And which is kind of, that sounds bad, honestly, but like that's
your D's
like,
coming out. That might be an HR.
My HR might call me, but it's knowing that and calling each other out. And then even your management styles of L1 through L5, and I have a whole system on that. I was like, hey,
are these systems that you've pulled from a bunch of different places?
So I've teamed up with a couple guys that created these softwares and kind of taking them to the next level, but made it like I'm labeling it mine and doing a couple different things with it.
Cool.
But I'm like, it just
That's
helps
awesome,
a ton.
Man. This is something we've talked about in our company a ton the last 6 months. We've hired a bunch of people this last year, and we sat down, we did a full 2 days. We went through what's our true core values of our company, right? Which a lot of companies do, but we were like, once we pick these, we're going to live them, So we like debated it for like 2 days, it was like 12 hours of like, if we put on the board, we're going to live or die by that. So you better defend that position. We had like this whole thing. We came out with this core values. We've used them pretty well. And now it's like the next step is, okay, how do we, live and become those core values, and then also follow up and have clear scorecards and I think this is awesome. I'm going to have to get all the stuff from you.
I mean, I have culture cards. So every person in their wallet has a plastic culture card that has all our values and our mission statement on it, our tagline. And every meeting that we have that's 2 or more people, we pull out our culture card check each other, we laugh, we have a good time, put it back. Now you name the values to me, memorize them. You say them to me, I'll say them to you. You say the mission statement, I'll say it to you. And then I need 3 stories of what you've seen, our values, how they've been working. One of them's family. Oh, we've been acting like a family. We had a dealership in Oregon that had a bunch of inventory that we needed down here. They sent it to us. One of them's giving back. Yep. Oh, our dealership in Salt Lake City is funding currently. Actually, this is a true story. Our dealership right now is funding one of the schools for spring break. So their kids like. A lot of these Title I schools, man, like these guys don't do anything. They don't have food or they don't do anything for spring break. How can we take a school and how can we help them during spring break? So one of our dealerships is doing that. And so we talk about that and managing through the culture. So we know that everything is through there. Our vendors have my culture cards because I'm like, hey, know that if you violate one of these values, what I call them is cultural realignment meetings. So instead of write-ups, we're realigning to the culture and my values because this is what we care about. And if you can't adhere to these, we're not going to do business together. So, and we have a foundation. And I ask like, hey, like if I'm going to do business with you, I want you to do business with me. I would like you to, whatever you feel comfortable, show them. Like we help veterans, single parents and kids. And we have like help donate to the foundation. We're trying to do some awesome things with it. And so it's creating that bond and that relationship and that culture within your vendors. This is the people don't even really care about to know. They think it's I'm inviting them to a golf tournament and having a good time. It's like, no, like, okay, that's one day a year. What about the other 364 days? How are you operating? How are you being? Are you stewards? Hey, people know that we're doing business together. So if you do something bad, how does that going to look like on me that we're doing business together? So know that I'm going to hold you to these values and I want you to hold me to the values. And so I'm going to a dealership right after this. I guarantee I get car checked. And I don't I gave him one away last night.
Oh shoot.
And I'm going to have to do some push-ups or something. And I'm ready for it because I know 100% of the time I go on location, they will car check me. But I love that because we are living through our values and our culture.
That's cool.
And then every training we have a cultural like day or a couple of hours.
How often are you visiting your dealerships?
I'm trying to once a quarter.
Okay. Yeah. Go say hi to every single person.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm in Salt Lake or something, I'll just pop over for 30 minutes. That's the easiest one for me.
How have you picked good for each dealership? You have a general manager, or I would call him a quarterback person that runs that. What's your, we're talking about, it's just hard on businesses and stuff, picking good quarterbacks and we call them quarterbacks of who's going to run that whole division or sector. And like, they're like, dude, you're running this thing. What's your thoughts on how do you pick someone that's going to be good for that position?
Dude, it's really hard. We've gotten very,
it's going to be so hard.
Blessed with buying dealerships with really good leadership, really good people with the capability of good leadership, and we've just had to kind of mold them into what we want. But it's been hard. I mean, our culture is kind of tough because it's a high standard. We hold ourselves to a high standard, but I want that. But it's kind of a lot of people that raise their hand and say, hey, I want to be this. I want to do that. I want to do and I tell people that on our whole company-wide calls, we have them once a month. They're like, raise your hand. Like I'm more apt to come to you and promote you if you're raising your hand and helping you, and you can join the MIT program or whatever. If you're raising your hand, not just like excel. Because if you're excelling and just crushing it in sales, and you don't ever say you want to be a sales manager ever, I'm just probably going to assume that, okay, he just probably doesn't want to be a sales manager. Or when it comes to that time, I might say like, hey, have you ever wanted to, I might go interview that, but we're moving so fast as I need people that want to be here. And that's part of our culture is I want you to be here. If you don't really want to go excel at the ladder, then I'm cool with that. Like obviously, like it's like a clock in a team. We need all kinds of different players. Like every football team in America, whether it's high school, college, NFL, anything, XFL now, they have trainers, they have water boys, they have water girls, we need everybody. And not everybody's going to be the quarterback. Not everybody's going to be the star. But we need those second and third string quarterbacks for the team because it affects everything, right?
Yeah, cool.
And so
you ask people to raise their hand.
And you raise your hand.
Raise your hand. That's cool.
And then we have these programs, these leadership programs that we dive in. We go into management, how to manage. Our general managers, that we're going to make them take the RV technical, so they're going to be technician certified.
Oh, interesting.
Because I want all the GMs to know what it's like. And so we're going to roll that out. We actually have we're the only, that as far as I know, and I stand corrected, and it doesn't matter to me, but we have a fully accredited RV technical school. We founded that school called Haugen University.
Wow,
and we also, it's a leadership side to it and a bunch more than a technician school, but we have our own technician school.
Cool.
Where we actually have a place in Salt Lake City that we run our technicians through, because it's that level of standard, that service that we want to provide to our customers.
Yeah.
And so, so
cool.
I'm making all the general managers go through the at least level 1 certification.
Yeah.
Which it's a week-long class, and they have to test at the end of it and pass.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't pass, it's not gonna be good, guys. Because I think that's how you help them gain respect. And dude, I totally feel like I'm rambling, but what my goal is to help those general managers gain the credibility through their team. So if I see something, or I want them to walk the walk and hold themselves to a standard and hold themselves to expectations that they are holding themselves to, not just barking orders at. And
how did you get all these, systems or certifications or stuff? Like, did you pull them from other companies that were existing? Did you guys develop a lot of them in-house? What did you guys do?
Dude, just developed a lot of this in-house.
You developed a lot of them, really? No way.
There was an opportunity for, we got a bulletin come out in an email that said, hey, the RV Technical Institute is hey, we're going to certify people that can do your own tests. Cool. And I went all into it. I don't know of anybody else that did.
Yeah.
I mean, I even asked the Utah RV Association to say, hey, let's do this together. And they're like, no, not really. Okay, cool. We're going to do our own thing, because I want to hold myself to that standard. A lot of this personality stuff and the leadership stuff from books and just trial and error. But I have gone an all-out blitz on it to just, I care so much about it.
So cool.
So that's really
cool
what
thing.
my job is.
Yeah.
And I don't really know of any other RV dealerships or any other companies that are doing this.
Yeah.
I got a couple mentors of mine in the leadership space that help me do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I'm creating the systems, and we're as a team creating the systems to implement into our company and then others. And that's why I've done a lot of this culture camp stuff, my podcast, and then really getting into culture coaching, because I think it's a lost art. And every company that I've helped coach, their revenue has increased because people are feeling more appreciated, empowered. They're not being time is we can get down to the nitty gritty of how to operate the business. And it's just been awesome to see. And I love that. I love people succeeding. And that's been a huge mission for mine in the dealerships, is to watch these people succeed, and financially, mentally, leadership wise. I love it. We have a 24, 25 general manager in Salt Lake City, our number 1 store.
Wow.
Has
cool.
everybody's respect in the state, in the country.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to watch him succeed. He built a new house, and I'm his biggest fan. I'm dude, it's so it's so cool to see. That's what fills me up. That's fulfillment to me.
Man, I love that. Okay, a couple last questions. I'll get you out of here.
I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
This is so good. I love it. Give me a book that's changed your life.
Oh, there's a lot of books, but honestly, this kind of sounds. So there's this book that I'm reading currently that has definitely opened my eyes up to how more effective I can be as a human being. And it's by a guy I just met in a book I just found out, a guy named Dan Martell. I don't know if you've heard of Dan Martell.
Yep.
He just wrote a book called Buy Your Time Back. And I'm
He
starting
joined our course actually on funds. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Dan
so
did,
cool. Yeah. Dan is just I just met him in Vegas 2 weeks ago.
Cool.
And it was such a pivotal time in my life, because right now I have the dealerships, and we got, almost, we got 180 employees. We got, we're doing 100 million in business. Now I'm starting all this real estate stuff, and kind of going a lot of speaking and culture. I'm how do I manage all this? And he didn't even give me the book. I just saw that we kind of became friends on Instagram, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting book. So I downloaded it on Kindle and started reading it, and I'm this has affected my life so much. And
so what does it go through? What is it talking about?
It's about buying, hiring people to buy your time back, using the assistant more effectively, and delegating more effectively to figure out and it goes a lot and maybe why it's kind of changing my life, because it has a lot to do with my leadership management style and a lot of my coaching. It's I just didn't really know how the details of how to put this together of email lists and folders and different he breaks it down of
cool.
how to manage your time better. And he uses Richard Branson a lot, because Richard Branson owns in the book he references maybe 900 and something companies. And he went on a ski trip with them, and Richard didn't mention one thing about business. And all the other guys that were there, the ski trip, were on the phone doing this, putting out fires. And Richard Branson was just chilling, having a good time.
Yeah, cool.
And so it was just a pivotal time in my life right now. I got so many things going on, and how do I manage all this and be the best me I can possibly be? It's changing the game for me right now. I recommended the book to everything. So
wow, really cool.
Yeah, that's been an awesome book. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Good to Great is a really good book.
We make How to Win Friends and Influence People as a mandatory reading for our whole company.
Yeah.
I make everybody read that.
Yeah.
And I read it every year. I've read the book probably 7 times, I think.
Really, that's awesome. It's so important.
You read it and just you're oh, I forgot to do that. Or I need to do this better, because I suck at doing that. So I got to get better. But okay, big prediction for the next 3 to 7 years, just around the world.
Like economic?
Whatever you want. Biggest prediction for next 3 to 5 years, 3 to 7 years.
Man, that's hard. I definitely think, I'll do economic. I think that we're gonna kind of stay stagnant for a little bit. Things are gonna correct. I think that different markets will go up, different markets will go down, but I think overall we're gonna stay kind of stagnant. And I'm not talking about Utah, because Utah is gonna be an anomaly, I think, just due to the demand of what's going on in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
And then I think that we'll climb out of it, and we'll rebound and come out stronger. Do I think it's going to go dramatically up like COVID? No. I think people kind of gotta get that out of their mind. That growth in an economy will never look like that ever again. I hope not. No one wants a worldwide pandemic.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's gonna keep going up, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah. I know we'll see if the Powell pivot. Everyone's kind of thinking Jerome Powell's going to pivot here in July, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what they end up doing. But he's been pretty tough.
Yeah.
Been pretty hawkish, especially with these banks closing. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it is sooner than later, because my season basically ends in September. So, but then also it helped me in the off season if all of a sudden interest rates started dropping, and we'll see. But whenever, I think that he swung the pendulum pretty drastically and hard one way, and which you can almost argue is instead of a really slow economic decline, it was like a sharp boom and bounce up, and I would almost rather.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get out of this deleveraging. Ray Dalio put out a great video called the beautiful deleveraging, when they can beautifully go through a cycle where they're printing money and lowering debt at the same time.
Right.
We'll see if we can do that on this one.
Yeah.
But
we got to coach more people to start saving money.
I know it's just good principles. I think a lot of economic opportunities are coming up. It's interesting too. We were talking about this last night. If you were there, my dad was talking about the inflation going up. We're still at 6%, 7% inflation.
Right.
Yet the US dollar is at 20-year highs. Right. And it's pretty interesting what the Fed can do. What they say and what they're doing is two totally different things. In this macro geopolitical game with Russia, Ukraine right now, you see with China going on, Middle East, the BRICS nations, the kind of this battle for world reserve currency.
Right.
And it's interesting, the game the Fed is playing right now is saying, yeah, you know what, our economy might suffer a little bit, but right now everyone else's economies are getting decimated.
Right.
I mean, way worse than, we talked about problems in the RV industry in the United States, but if you look at the Chinese economy, if you look at the Russian or even European economy or Western nations, I mean, they are getting just blitzed right now. And they're saying, you know what, you guys really want to go away from the US dollar? Cool. Let's put us in a global recession. We'll see how much you guys want to use US dollars a year from now. It's pretty interesting.
It's amazing to see how much power they actually, like people, they will never do that. They'll never do this. They don't have to. Dude, the Fed, like your dad was talking about last night, the Fed always wins.
Yeah.
And don't fight the Fed.
Most powerful organization on earth. 12 largest banks run the Fed, and it's just like they are.
It's crazy.
It's unreal.
And they have a lot of power, and they pretty much will do what they want. And they're not in the business of losing money. And they'll take a little bit of a sting sometimes to get what they want.
Yeah.
And I mean, when people make those threats of the U.S. dollar and this and that and the other, they're like, okay, well, we're gonna make it powerful. We're gonna do first ever.
Yeah.
We're gonna grow inflation a lot, dramatically. Probably one of the biggest inflations we've seen in at least me in your lifetime. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe in the 90s. I don't really. It was kind of crazy back then.
70s and 80s, a little bit higher, but
but in our lives, we're not that old. We're 90s babies. So, but then we're gonna grow the U.S. dollar first ever.
It's just unreal.
It's like basically like hold my beer, watch this.
It's pretty crazy what they can do. Again, don't fight the Fed, don't fight the Fed, don't fight the Fed. Right, the two things. It's just interesting to see these countries that want to move away from the dollar. They just put trade. We just put trade embargoes. We'll just park aircraft carriers out front and just say, okay, Turkey, you don't want to trade? Cool. You can't get any imports now for the next 90 days. Let's see how much you want to move away. This happened 2 years ago. Yeah. It was like Turkey's like, oh, okay, never mind. We will play nice all of a sudden, because it's like you do not want to mess with 14 super carriers around the world.
No.
Combined world has, I think, 11 aircraft carriers. US has 14, and they're super carriers, right? And we can just project power anywhere. It's just,
and they can be out there for years. Isn't it like 20, 30 years?
Well, they're nuclear powered. They don't have to port.
No.
It's unreal.
They can just be out there for. Just be, okay, what would you post it up for the next whatever you want? We'll fly in food for the next couple years.
I'm a geek about aircraft carriers. My wife makes fun of me so much, but we have super carriers. Okay, 2 nuclear powered engines. It's like 2 nuclear plants in each one of them that power them, so they can go 24/7. The combined world has, I think, 11 or 12, but they're World War II era.
Really?
They're like 60 years old. The aircraft carriers.
Really?
They're a fourth the size. So the combined world has 12, but they're the fourth the size. We have super carriers, which are
some of these things
4 times
big.
bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, they are unreal. And for a carrier to leave port, it leaves with like 15 ships. Like it has to, every time it leaves, it has to go with 15 ships. So there's like a submarine, there's 2 battleships, there's like all these other, it's a carrier fleet for a reason. They don't just leave an aircraft carrier out in the middle. Like it is surrounded. So you talk about a carrier group. So for example, when China was talking about Taiwan, right? So this is last year. It's very interesting what happened just from geopolitical. So China's talking tough. We want to take over Taiwan. They're starting to do all these military drills to the US. What do? They go park an aircraft carrier right in the middle. Okay. Aircraft carrier division. So you imagine that's out of 15 ships. They park it in the middle. China still does their tough talk. We park a second one there. Boom. Right there. And then what we do is we said, okay, we will defend Taiwan at all measures. Biden said that. This is like last August.
Right.
And then they said also we're going to cut off all chip manufacturing from China in like the same month. And you saw them still kind of doing drills in the area. We then took a 3rd aircraft carrier and put it in the South China Sea. So we have 3 of our super carriers there.
Wow.
And then guess what? Everything just kind of settles down. Yeah. It's like this, and this is what happened. This is the 4th time we had a Taiwanese conflict. I served an LDS mission in Taiwan.
Really?
They always talk about this and all this stuff. This is the 4th one. And every time the U.S. has showed up with 1 or 2 aircraft, this time 3 aircraft carriers, and said, really? We're going to do this?
Right.
And everything just kind of calms down. It's really interesting. If you look at, geopolitical, when something starts heating up,
right,
we go park an aircraft carrier somewhere, things settle down pretty quick. Now, the problem with Ukraine and Russia was we can't really get an aircraft carrier in there because it's landlocked, right? But it's really interesting.
We can go park, something on the sea. We have long range missiles and a lot of those.
But we've
battleships.
got satellites and everything.
Yeah.
What's funny too about this? Sorry, we're just going way off topic. This is fun.
It's cool.
The Ukraine-Russian war. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It feels like they're fighting. I had this guy that was a super geopolitical, like expert military guy on my show, and he's like, it feels like they're using weapons from 30 years ago. They're not using modern weapons for this war.
Right.
They're using like archaic, like we're like fighting like World War II era war in Ukraine. The US is kind of just dumping our old ammunition to them and just saying, yeah, go fight. And we're kind of testing stuff out.
Right.
It's like all the new tech of like drones, super soldiers, satellites, laser missile, like they have all of them. So we're not using any of them.
Right.
But Russia's not using them either. It's like this weird, like, let's fight a war from the 1970s together.
Right.
And we just barely sent the M1 Abrams tanks over, which are like our super tanks.
Right.
They can drive like 70 miles an hour and shoot a target from like 2 miles away while they're moving. They're crazy. They can they're just cool. But I don't know, any thoughts on the war?
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that because I was seeing some pictures and seeing some things and read some articles about like why is Russia not using what we think that they have and this and that and the other. And then it's like, then I guess you can like, do they have it? Well, they've shown that they have it. Was the technology really there, or is it kind of more faking there?
Yeah.
Like if they and then you have to like think about, maybe like I'm way off topic and I'm by no means any
myself as well. I'm just a guy sitting in an armchair.
But it's like if they really wanted it, why don't like if Russia feels that they're that big and bad, why don't they just go take it?
Mm-hmm.
Like why? It seems to me that it'd be like us fighting a war with almost no talking with anybody, or like Mexico, and we're just over here like using BB guns.
Yeah,
and it's like if we really wanted it, we would just go invade and take it. We would just take it.
But it seems like Russia's military just isn't as strong as
and
people
I think
thought,
that
right?
I think that's like it's almost so. I actually know some Eastern Europeans and some Russians and people, and they're like. And this is like I don't know how to even form an opinion, but they're all upset at Putin because he's showing the world that they're not what he always brags that they are.
Yeah, they're super weak.
Yeah, and it's like now it's like, okay, like threaten anybody and you really maybe don't have like if you really want to start a war and everything that you said politically, like on camera and all these things and bombing this and bombing that and whatever, like if all that is what real, then why aren't you just going and taking it? Like how much you say that you want it and hate it and you're going to do whatever it takes and bomb this and bomb that, whatever, then why haven't you just taken it over? Why is itty bitty little Ukraine just doing okay?
I set a huge stand and they've done really well, and we'll see if this again a war of attrition. We'll see what happens. I mean, the only thing you go back to is they have like 6,000 nuclear heads, and he's
right.
So that's the game that I think the United States is playing now. Is like, well, it looks like they're pretty weak. We can take them over, but we don't want to back them into a corner where they're going to blow off a nuke, because we don't want to have even a small tactical nuke would be detrimental for an area. So that's just an interesting thing, but it's really shown the weakness of Russia. We'll see with China as well. We mentioned that we talked about this last night, but Peter Zeihan's put a ton of great stuff about the weakness of the Chinese economy and the weakness of Their supply chains with food, their import of oil and calories every day is just phenomenal. Really? And it's phenomenal in a bad way. It's terrible how much they import. They're very dependent on other countries. They're very easy to starve out. And his whole take is that, and China's right now, because they had the one-child policy, and then they had the baby boomers that was around the world. Then they had a one-child policy. So they have this huge demographic that's aging, that's retirement age. Then they have one-child policy. And now they're trying to incentivize like working age people to have kids. So these people that are in ages from 25 to, let's call them 50 years old, have to take care of their in-laws and parents, and maybe more because there's a lot of baby boomers.
Right.
They're just themselves. And then they got to take care of multiple kids. Right. And there's this huge squeeze in the Chinese economy. And the best estimates put like by 2060, the Chinese population will be half of what it is today.
Wow.
Like that's how much population decline they're having. And that hurts, factories, production workers. It just hurts everything. And you have an aging population that's old that needs Social Security to be taken care of, right?
Right.
And he goes through this whole economic play of China, and he predicts China will collapse in the next about 15 years.
Wow.
In some way, shape, or form. And that's why actually they're lashing out now. So usually economic wars long precede physical wars.
Right.
So that throughout history, using economic, like Japan had an economic war. They're trying to get more oil and stuff. And then finally they just said, well, we're just going to take the whole Sun Belt. They tried to take all these islands, including Hawaii, which put them into World War II, because that was part of their mission. But they were really economically squeezed at the time. And right now China is becoming economically squeezed, especially with COVID. They just opened up from COVID. They've been shut down for 18 or 2 years.
It's crazy.
And we were watching this video, me and my dad, and these factory workers are opening their factories and like, okay, we're open for business. They have no orders.
Right.
And they're calling up US people. Hey, where's the orders? And they're like, oh, we went to India. We went to Indonesia. We went to Mexico. We went to Vietnam.
Right.
We don't need you guys anymore. We had to run a business. You guys have been gone for 2 years. We can't just, and so all these business owners in China are like, we just opened, there's this whole documentary, they're walking around. They're like, they've just opened their factories and they have no orders for 30 or 60 to 5 days.
Right.
And they're like, do Americans hate Chinese people? Like they're trying to figure it out. And it's really, no, you guys just closed your factories for 2. It's called capitalism.
Right.
And we just went somewhere else.
Yeah. We had to do. I mean, like we were talking last night about how important the United States is to the world economy and how much we consume, and everybody kind of relies on us for a lot of manufacturing, and a lot of exports to us, and also we export to them. So it's this trade going on. And if you just say, hey, we're not open, we're not going to do this, well, we're not just going to say, okay, well, we'll see you in 2 years, and we're just going to go out of business and go bankrupt, and our world's going to end. Like, no, like it's the American dream burning inside of every business owner. We're going to do something else. My mom always used to tell me, if it is to be, it's up to me. Yeah. And that's kind of a lot of business owners, a lot of people is like, if it is to be, it's up to me. We're going to make it happen. We're going to go somewhere else. And then you had all these other countries saying, hey, no, we don't care. Come to us. Please come to us. And they're like giving incentives and discounts and opening up factories and new construction and this and that and the other, of like, you're getting the same service, the same product, probably at a cheaper price. It helped us. Instead of being so leveraged by a country where we so heavily relied on them for exports, where they could kind of play and do whatever they want to do. Now it's
and
cheap.
Then you raise rates at the same time.
Yeah.
And you squeeze these countries economically even more. Right. So like I said before, the US economy will get hurt, but these other countries, it's now compounded.
Right.
Because interest rates are now high, but you have no orders as well. And so you are squeezed across the board. And what happens is you squeeze the world economy way more, all back to the play of what currency you're going to use.
Yep.
Who are you going to, pay your dues to? Are we going to go back to the Bretton Woods Agreement, right? It's interesting, this macro game of geopolitical sense. But anyways, we could talk for hours and hours. I got 2 last questions for you. We'll get out of here. I know you got to run. Okay, second last question. How can people find you guys, follow you? What's the best ways to connect and all that kind of stuff?
So best way to connect to Instagram, just Jason Haugen. Last name is Haugen. It's just my name. My handle is just Jason Haugen. Our dealerships are Haugen RV Group. So my last name, RV Group. And I'll be on there, but my Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me.
Cool. So go follow Jason online. It's awesome.
Also podcasts, Culture Camp, everywhere where you can listen to a podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Castbox, everywhere, YouTube, everywhere.
Okay, sorry. 2 last questions. I said 2 before, but I got 1 more. So 2 last ones. Favorite brand of ice cream?
Oh man, dude, I fell in love. I was just in Hawaii. I fell in love with Dole Whip.
Dole Whip. Okay.
Yeah.
Not Haagen-Dazs?
I love.
It's your family, dog. Come on.
I know.
You can't not like Haagen-Dazs.
I I grew up in Ogden. Farr's ice cream is just the best.
It is pretty good.
And it is the OG up there. I love Farr's ice cream.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought Haagen-Dazs would be just a lock step.
I don't know. Maybe we're always battle because the last name is like we're Haugen, they're Haugen.
Yeah. Is it it's spelled differently though?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But kind of the same. Probably the same ancestor way back when. Right?
Honestly, man, I'm just a big fan of cookie dough and cookies and cream. So like that's
whoever makes it good.
Whoever makes it good.
Okay. All right. Final question. I just want to throw in there because that one. All right. If you could leave this audience with one thing that you think is most important to you, so it could be religion, politics, science, family, whatever. What would be the most important thing you'd want to leave this audience with?
Lead from the front and love your people. Whether that's your family, your team, your employees. Lead from the front and love your people.
Love it.
Yeah.
There it is.
They got to see you walk the walk. They got to see you talk the talk. They got to see you do everything and be the example in their life, whether that's positive, whether that's, being a good coach, being a good mentor, being a good team leader, being a good owner, being a good CEO, whatever you want to call it. And then just lead with your heart. Yep. And I hope that you can. I feel like it's a disaster when people are leaving too much with what they just don't care about their people. And so you can kind of you don't have to take it to an extreme and just, love like it's just don't be weird, be normal, but just love your people. Yeah. Just don't look at them negative. I've been if I didn't have a team, I would just have a bunch of real estate and trailers with nothing, no cash flow, nothing. And so people need to realize how important that you can call it human capital. You can call it team members, people, human beings that are part of your company. Yeah. And just care. There's no reason not to care. It's way respectable to care. I don't give a lot of people much respect and don't do business with people that I know that don't care about their team.
That's cool. Wow, I love that. Yeah. Jason Haugen, everybody go follow him online. Thanks for coming on today.
Dude, thank you so much.
It's just a pleasure to have you. It was so fun.
You're amazing, dudes. Appreciate you.
All right, dog. That was it. That was awesome.